Hey guys, this is Railfan Get Trained Productions here, and today I want to tell you sorry for the video being 2 weeks late, but it's finally here now. So thank you guys so much for your patience. Let's see if we get to 10,000 views and maybe 100 likes on this video. So thank you guys so much for your patience and enjoy the video. El Cajon Pass. One of the grades is a 3.0%. Trains could easily go over the grade by going up, but while you go down, it's very hard. Usually there were some runaways occur, but however, some of them managed to be under control. But however, 3 of them weren't so lucky. Today, we'll be going over the first story of what happens. And hopefully we learn the lessons of these stories we're going to go over. But however, for now, we're going to be going over the first story, when a 69-car runaway Southern Pacific train derailed in Duffy Street, San Bernardino, California, 31 years ago today. This is a story of the 1989 San Bernardino, California runaway train disaster, 31 years later. On May 11, 1989, Southern Pacific train NJLBP1-11 was transporting trona had been from the mine and loaded into the freight cars for shipment to a buyer. The shipment will move by rail to the port of Los Angeles and then on a ship to South America. At 9 p.m., a 3-man crew consisted of 33-year-old engineer Frank Collins, 35-year-old conductor Evan Crown, and brakeman 43-year-old Alan Reitz, who were brought on duty on Southern Pacific Battlefield Yard, and they were transported by a company vehicle to Mojave to charge of 3 set locomotives. The locomotives in question were EMD SD45R 7551, another SD45R 7549, and an EMD SD45T-2 9340. While at Mojave, the crew received the paperwork for their train, including the cars and the tonnage. According to the paper, it received that the train weight was 6,151 tons. Upon boarding the locomotives, it was discovered that the lead engine, 7551, could not even start. Let's get back to that unit. So then the crew were instructed to take a locomotive, which was SD40T-2 8278, and add it to the head of 7551. The crew departed Mojave on approximately 12:15 a.m. on May 12, 1989, and headed southbound approximately 3 miles to Florida, when they are going to pick up the 69 freight cars. When the crew picked up the 69 cars, they then head back to Mojave, and then ran around them before heading south to Ponder, or then instructed to have helper locomotives. At 1:30 a.m., the crew consisted of 42-year-old engineer Lawrence Hill and 57-year-old brakeman Wobbleberry, who are known to be brought on duty at West Colton and transported by company video to Dyke, when they were on board a 2 helper set locomotives. The locomotives in question were Southern Pacific EMD SD45R 7443, and then EMD SD40T-2 8317. Their first tasks were to push the northbound train up the El Cajon Pass and then bring the Southern Pacific train down to Cajon Pass to West Colton. After the helpers couple up to the Southern Pacific train, then they began to head down El Cajon Pass. A little after 7 a.m., they reached the grade. Before they go, though, they test their brakes 3 times. Nothing wrong, so they head off towards the grade. As they were going down the grade, Engineer Frank Collins initially applied the dynamic brakes and the air brakes to hold the train at 25 miles an hour to keep it at a good speed. But the conductor, Evan Crown, noticed that the train was picking up speed. He told Frank Collins it was traveling about 30 miles an hour, and then Frank Collins decided to put the train into emergency, but however, it didn't work. It continued speeding up. So the engineer on the helping unit applied the train's air brakes. Hopefully it will slow down, which it slowed down, but it was not enough. The train was traveling at 105 or 110 miles an hour until Frank Collins knew there were some houses right by a curve, right by Duffy Street, but however, there was nothing they could do to stop the train in time. They just gotta ride it out, and then disaster struck. The Southern Pacific freight train derailed on an elevated curve and plunged into the residence area on Duffy Street at 7:36 a.m. The location was just northeast where the 210 foothill freeway across the Cajon Creek Wash. The force of the derailment caused all 6 locomotives and 69 cars derail, and even caused trona from the 69 cars to spill everywhere in the neighborhood. Conductor Crown sadly died in the crash, along with brakeman Alan Leitz and 2 young boys, 7-year-old James Thompson and 9-year-old Thompson White, who were killed instantly in their homes. Engineer Hollins remains in his seat at the control stand in front of his engine, just ahead of the train, and suffers several cracked ribs and a punctured lung. But however, he was able to climb out of his wrecked locomotive and was helped by eyewitnesses on the scene. Engineer Hahn and brakeman Waterbury, who were in the helping unit, received minor injuries, but they managed to get out. But however, things started to get even worse. 6 feet underground, along with the train tracks, was a pipeline carrying fuel to the Canary Pipeline Company. The pipe was marked while during the cleanup to avoid the risk of an accidentally damaged pipeline official remaining on the site as safety approves. During the cleanup of the rail cars, but not during the cleanup of the trona removal service on the tracks when the derailment happened, was restored 4 days after the crash. 13 days later, after the train wreck, on March 25, 1989 at 8:05 a.m., shortly after eyewitnesses heard a train pass through the derailment site, a pipeline erupted at the point of the curb when the train derailed, showering the neighborhood with gasoline when it ignited and turned into a large fireball that burned for close to 7 hours, eliminate huge flames about 300 feet into the air. By the time the fire was put out, it had fatally burned 2 people and destroyed 11 more homes and 21 cars. Of the houses destroyed, 5 of them were across the street from the houses that had been destroyed in the derailment, while the other was the only house on the track on Duffy Street had been received spatially damaged during the derailment. 4 more houses received modern smoke and fire damage, while 3 other houses had only smoke damage. The total property damages was over $14.3 million, with more of the damage resulting of the fire than the train wreck, although there were more fatalities of the derailment. But people are wondering, why? How can true tragedies happen like this? The National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB for short, investigates the Elkhorn Pass runaway and the pipeline eruption. They soon learned that the cause of the runaway train was two factors. One, the failure to determine the weight and the communication of the weight of the train, and the failure to communicate on the condition of the train's brakes. It was also discovered that on May 11th, the three-man crew assumed train weight of 6,151 tons, but was actually 8,900 tons after the dispatcher found the correct measurement. It was also discovered, you're probably wondering, 7551 couldn't start up, right? Well, it turned out it was dead. So it explains that's why 8278 was in front of it at the time before the derailment. 7551, since it was dead in tow, it did not have operated dynamic brakes, just air brakes. According to the event recorder on the third locomotive, 7549, it was shown that the produced traction current in the modern was working, but the traction in the dynamic brake current wasn't working. The dynamic brakes on the fourth locomotive, 9340, operated waggily and had limited use. 8317 of the two helper engines coupled up to the rear of the train also did not have dynamic braking. Plus, among the four locomotives in the front and a set of helpers on the back, only 8278 at the front of the train and 7443 at the back of the train have fully dynamic brakes. After the NTSB recover and report the crash on the Elkhorn Pass runaway, they now focus on the pipeline incident, despite scratches being placed along the pipeline to show where they were when the crew was cleaning up the spilled trona. The cleanup, no matter the less, caused unexpected damage to the pipeline. The NTSB investigators found gaps which was determined to have been left by a backhoe cleaning up the spilled trona at the time. Over time, these gaps caused the pipeline to go weak and even erupt. During the cleanup, Conair only inspect short distance of the pipeline, guarantee around places when the train wreckage was landed on top of the pipe. Other short excavation discovered other debris, including bogies from the hopper cars. During the inspection of the pipeline after the rupture, more debris from one of the wrecked locomotives was discovered near the point of the rupture. At the point of rupture, the pipeline was only buried 2.5 feet underground, much closer to the surface than the pipeline has been at the time of the derailment. If they did not carry out an excavation of the pipeline through the entire land of the derailment site with a photo inspection or other, in which, if done, they would have found the damage and prevented the rupture. In the end, all of the four of the locomotives at the front of the train, 8278, 7551, 7549, and 9340, were damaged beyond repair and destroyed. They were sold for parts by Precision National and scrapped at the crash site. Both helper locomotives derailed, but they're still operable. 8317 was sold to Precision National, repair, then resold to the House Police Unit to continue service. 7443 was repaired and repainted by the Southern Pacific and returned to service. Although it used to work for Union Pacific, it was finally retired on March 17, 2000, and sold to National Railway Equipment Company, who rebuilt into a SD40-3MP with 5/6 gauge trucks for the MRS logging in Brazil, number 5313, and continues to be in service on this day still. All 69 hopper cars were destroyed and scrapped at the site. As a result of this and other runaway incidents involving locomotives with dynamic brakes, the Federal Railroad Administration issued its mandated that dynamic brakes must be disabled when train brakes are placed into emergency. The mandate is that they must remain all functional. The Southern Pacific Railroad was bought up by the Union Pacific Railroad, which is still run trains over the rails where the accident happened. It's been 31 years since this runaway derailment occurred, despite the cautions. Sadly, 2 more runaways occur in El Cajon Pass, but they will be in another story for now.